You need to use this booklet as your guide for your test. So literally, this booklet that you get as an online version, you just use that and run through that. Anytime you need to do theory work to guide what you need to do in the test, you don't hand this up. I don't mark it. I don't assess it. But you should know everything that's in this booklet because the test is made up of this. This first little video is just going to go through the beginnings of cattle and the differences between northern and southern Australia cattle systems. Yeah, so let's start. You remember back in year 7, you talked about domain, kingdom, phylum. Oh, goodness me. Domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Those taxonomic rankings. You're going to hear a couple of terms and they just come from that system of ranking. So the domain is eukaryotes, so organisms with cells that have a nucleus. Domain, kingdom, animalia, domain, kingdom, phylum. Anyway, the mammals, they're mammals, which is what we know. Family is bovine. So the family is bovine. Right, so the phylum is Chordata. Class is mammals. We're talking about mammals here. And then the family is bovine. And these things include all types of things like water buffalo, all those types of animals. But after bovine comes a new one. So family, the genus is called Bos. The Bos. And this refers to cattle. This refers to dairy cattle. This refers to all types of cattle. It's called, the genus is Bos. And then you go into species, and you've got two species. The two distinct species are Bos, and so it goes genus species. The genus is Bos indicus and Bos taurus. And these have all different types of breeds in them. This Bos indicus comes from something from India called zebu cattle, and zebu cattle have a big dewlap at the front. They generally have a lump on the back, and they're really suited to warm, tropical, hardy drought conditions. These are things like Brahman cattle, Gur cattle, and the like. The most famous is the Brahman, though. Beautiful, beautiful beast. And from here, you've got Bos taurus. And Bos taurus comes into two different breeds. You've got British and European, but these are things like Angus. These are things like Hereford. And they're your British. So British breeds, Angus, Hereford, and then you've got your European breeds, and these include your Charolais, Limousin, and Simmental. Beautiful. But you'll find out all about this when you get into your booklet. I suppose today what I want you to really understand is you need to know these terms here. So that's an example of the dewlap on the front of the zebu type cattle. I want you to be aware of these terms, and there's nothing to really go into too much depth here. The only one that I see people sort of get a little bit confused about is this here, the heifer and the cow. Because people who have grown up around in ag circles and know farming of cattle have heard things like first calf heifer, and we want to get rid of that. Ag scientists are just trying to make it really clear distinction. She's a cow or she's a heifer. And when she's a cow, that means that she's never had a heifer. Oh, never dropped the calf. If she's a heifer, that means, oh, goodness me. I'm tired. Let me start that again. So the only thing that people would have had confusion with is cow and heifer. We're trying to get rid of all the confusion because in the industry, people say things like first calf heifer. I've even heard second calf heifer. Let's just get rid of all of that. If you are a cow, that means you've never dropped a calf. So that means that you're a female cattle and you've never dropped a calf. You are a... Let's try that one more time. This is hilarious. Okay, let's be really clear here. The only thing that's different in this part that you need to know all of these cattle terms, but the cow and heifer, let me clarify. People would have heard things in the industry before, like first calf heifer. You don't need to worry about that. What you need to know now is that there's a clear distinction in agricultural scientific communities. They are basically trying to say you are a cow if you have dropped a calf. So if you have this mum here has dropped this little calf here, then you are a cow. So as soon as you put one on the ground, boom, you are now a cow. If you haven't and you are a female, you are a heifer. And if you go through a few breeding cycles and you do not get pregnant and you're still a part of the herd and you end up clocking up to 7, 8 years old, you are still a heifer because you have not dropped a calf. You might be called a cow because you're rolling with that herd, in which case you probably need to go because you're not very good at getting pregnant. However, you're still a heifer because you haven't dropped a calf. There we go. This is something that you need to study, know, and understand. Your Brahmin are drought tolerant, tick resistant, and heat tolerant, which is really cool. They are tick resistant. These two guys are just not. That's why when we got those ticks in the goats the other day, we were all a bit like, oh, that's not great. Limousine, Charolais, and Simmental are European breeds, and these guys here are a little bit on the docility score, a little bit more flighty, a little bit more. They've got a little bit more in them. So just being aware of that. These guys here are a little bit more calmer, but have really good intramuscular fat. They're a beautiful breed. You need to know these. Probably the two biggest animals in Northern Australia are your Brahmin and Droughtmaster, just FYI. You can come up with the two from SA. I think it's a really good question. 3 key differences in which the way cattle are managed in SA compared to Northern Australia. And it's actually it's really simple. Cattle in the northern part of Australia are not really rotationally grazed. They have water drops and you can set up troughs and things, but they want to have natural water sources. They want to have a big boundary fence, and it could even be a road, for goodness sake, a mountain range. They're just huge 500,000, 1 million acre properties. And what they do is they basically muster their cattle once a year and they look at their herds. They make changes. They draft off the bad, for all intensive purposes, the bad women in the herd that aren't dropping calves or aren't getting pregnant, because if let the bulls go in with the herd. And basically, it's a lot more what we call extensive. It's a little bit pastoral, so it's massive amounts of land. Whereas in SA, the land size is smaller generally in the hills and around the riverland, and the northern district through Clare, and it's a bit more intensive and pastures managed differently. So yeah, definitely research into that one. That's beautiful. Your work today is to spend some time on this. Beautiful. Put a couple of breeds in here. Chuck in Hereford. Chuck in a European breed here like Simmental, and then put Brahmin in here. And then say, is it Horned? Well, Hereford isn't. Those guys aren't. Early maturing, late maturing. Go through and work this out. And I'd expect you to be working on this by the time you're done looking at these key terms. That's your work for today. Thank you.